Well, good evening, AWS friends. It is now the first AWS UG UK meetup of 2022, year 3 of the pandemic, which is why we're still online. I hope you're keeping safe and well. Let me know in the Twitch chat if you're new here. Say hello. I can already see Sandro, who's going to be speaking later. He's a first-time chat saying good evening. Gaija, first-time chatter. Tell us where you're from, Gaija. And Stunt Badger, who's also a first-time chatter. I can see J plus C plus M, who is John Matthews. Hello, John. How are you doing? And Permutans, bonjour. Are you joining us from France, or are you just speaking French for the hell of it? Who knows? We've got Albert E from Bangalore, also a first-time chatter. Might be our furthest afield viewer. Oh no, we have Ruprob from New Zealand, also first time in the chat. And sitting on the net, first time viewer from Monmouth. So good collection of locations for people. So we've got Gaija is from Norfolk in the UK. Jabbersoft, who's a regular on the feed actually. Good evening, Jabbersoft, joining from Brighton. Someone from London. Stunt Badger is from West Yorkshire. Excellent. Soft shale. I don't know why I try and pronounce these things. They're not really designed for it. All the pronounceable names are gone already. But good to see a West Yorkshire person on the stream. I'm joining from London right now. But in fact, the next time you see me on this feed, I will probably be in Yorkshire because my wife and I are moving to Leeds rather more quickly than I had necessarily planned for. But I do, of course, have the requisite headwear for that. So I'll already fit right in. I'm actually from Yorkshire originally, which is kind of why that works. Jose Flores from El Salvador. I hope I pronounced that name right. Is El Salvador further away than New Zealand? I have no idea. My spherical planetary geography is pretty poor. As you can see, I'm wearing my snazzy Reinvent 10th anniversary jacket, but it's a bit plasticky and I'm a little bit worried I'm going to set myself on fire. So I'm going to take that off and display my other AWS swag underneath there. Great. So, see if I can remember how to do this. It's been a couple of months. Since we were last here, we've actually had Reinvent, and obviously we're going to be talking about Reinvent with two of our guests who are just lurking in the green room right now, waiting with bated breath to come on the stream. So I'm not going to go into all the detail of the things that were launched since the last time we were here, because I do usually do that, but we've got, basically I'm outsourcing it. I've got other people to do it this time, which is nice and handy. We remember you can follow us on Twitter. We're AWS User Group UK on Twitter. Let me press that button, then you can actually see the slides that I'm attempting to show. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can hear about our upcoming meetups there. You can also follow us on LinkedIn if you're one of those people who spends a lot of time on LinkedIn, which is what I do these days. That's my job, is LinkedIn and spreadsheets and emails and that sort of thing. We also have a Discord. So if you haven't joined our Discord yet, please do go ahead and do that. Discord. We set Discord up last year as a way to kind of encourage community interaction between the meetups. It's reasonably quiet, but if you've got AWS questions, you can shout them on there, and someone will probably be able to answer that. I can see Paul is sharing links to that in the Twitch chat, which is awesome. You don't need to transcribe that from my screen. We're at 50 viewers right now, which is not bad considering we accidentally put a dot in the URL that we published for this on the meetup group. So turns out you've all passed that test. Well done, congratulations. You're all smart individuals, which is excellent. We will be running a survey at the end of the stream, so please do fill that out once we get there. I'll share this link later on as well. It's great to get your feedback, understand what we're doing well, what we're doing badly at, how you'd like to see the meetup go. This is of course for your benefit. It's not just me talking and a microphone and a camera for my own edification, although I do enjoy it, it's got to be said. We do want to know what you're looking for, and we'll endeavour to provide content that matches those needs. We have sponsors to thank as ever. This evening we have sponsors Deloitte to thank. I actually don't have a video from Deloitte this time. January is a really bad month to be running meetups. It was quite difficult to sort of get people to get their stuff together for January. So we don't have a video from Deloitte, but if we did have one, they would probably tell you all about the great work they're doing with enterprises and implore you to consider checking them out if you are looking for a new job. So hopefully that's that's met the needs of Deloitte as our sponsor for this evening, who weren't able to get a video to us in time. But we do have a video from eSynergy, and I'm going to play that back right now as soon as I found the button, which is there.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending the AWS user group. I'm Adam Topping. I'm an account principal here at eSynergy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about us now. We're looking to change the way consulting is done through progressive approaches and technology to deliver business impact. We have three main offerings. Firstly, cloud adoption. These are our lower level technical projects where we are delivering efficiency impacts through projects like platform builds and API integrations. Then we have cloud native delivery. This is all about making a customer impact. We're here to grow revenue, achieve customer acquisition, and customer retention. Then we have data and analytics. This is where we are optimizing our customer experiences, shortening time to actual insight, supporting our customers to realize where the market opportunities are. To name a few of our clients, in payments, we work with Apeo, in banking, Northern Trust, in insurance, Marsh, and in government, we work with HMRC and the Crown Prosecution Service. Please get in contact with me via the details on the slide if you want to learn more about our work and opportunities. But above all, I really hope you enjoy tonight.
So thanks there to eSynergy, who've been a supporter of the Meetup group for as long as I've been involved, which is a couple of years now, actually, which has flown by pretty quickly. They are also sponsoring our raffle, and there'll be a link to that in just a second. I can see Paul's already shared it in the Twitch stream, which is useful. If you'd like to enter the raffle, you can go and click that link now. We also have sponsors, Sainsbury's Tech, who are the people with whom we would probably be hosting an in-person meetup if we were actually able to do that. But we are currently obviously not. We have been looking at our options for in-person meetups this year. That's still a little bit up in the air, but we'll keep you posted and let you know. The first-time chat from viewer Nijaxel asking to see the link to the raffle. It's above you in the chat, but it's also there on your screen right now in QR code format. If you are interested in joining the raffle, we are giving away, I believe, an Echo and 2 Echo Dots for first, second, and third prize. If you are joining the raffle, please do bear in mind that we can only post those to UK addresses. So apologies to those of you who are from further afield this evening, our El Salvadorian and New Zealand viewers. Unfortunately, we can't get these prizes to you, so do please only enter if you are able to take a delivery in the UK. Otherwise, you will win and then be sad that you can't have your stuff. Tonight we've got a panel coming up. I actually haven't edited this slide since Phil actually had to drop out at the very last minute this morning. He's got a COVID case in his house, which means he's having to pitch in with childcare where he wouldn't otherwise. But we have a mystery special guest who I'm going to introduce you to shortly, who's stepped in at the very last minute for Phil. And once we've talked a little bit about Reinvent in the panel discussion, we're going to have a video content from my colleagues Matt and Sandro, who are going to be talking about passing their AWS certification. So hopefully those of you who are thinking of certifications as a goal for this year will be able to take some hints away and use that in your planning for study. But as I said before, we have now some guests joining us on a panel, and if I press this button, you should see their lovely faces. There we go. We've got Matt Johnson, who stepped in at the very last minute from to replace Phil. He owed me one because I did a bunch of video for him while we were at Reinvent. So that's how that works. Tell us who you are, Matt, where you're from, and what you're up to at the moment. Great. And where are you based right now, Matt? Where in the world are you?
Move. I should have introduced myself with an E up, shouldn't I? Really, but yeah, we're not far off being neighbours.
Yeah, I've just been told on the Twitch chat that your sound wasn't up, which was entirely my fault. So why don't you introduce yourself again so that we can all actually hear you? Now I've pressed the unmute button, which I obviously failed to do earlier.
All right, let me go back and delete that previous interview from the YouTube. Anyway, yes, thanks very much. I'm Matt Johnson. I'm a developer advocate with Bridge Crew, now part of Palo Alto. So I'm focused on kind of everything related to helping developers make security less of a pain in the ass in the cloud. And yeah,
excellent.
Based in Manchester. And yeah, welcome to Yorkshire. Looking forward to having you.
Yes, excellent. Good stuff. Are you involved in meetups around the AWS community in Manchester?
Obviously, we've got ComSum, but that's been virtual for, pretty much since I kind of got back into the meetup scene in Manchester. So not in person, but looking forward to getting back into it, like you said, when there's less than 3 years of COVID nonsense looming.
Excellent stuff. We're also joined this evening by Jason. Why don't you introduce yourself, Jason? Who are you? Where you come from?
Yeah, sure. Jason Gregson for my sins, and I'm currently in Norfolk in the UK. So, and luckily for me, the company I work for, we're 100% remote. So this is my home and my office and everything in between.
Excellent stuff. And what's the thing that's sort of occupying you in the AWS space right now? What do you spend your days doing?
Yeah, so up until very recently, like the beginning of the year, I was a senior solution architect here, helping customers with all sorts of technical elements, and just helping them really understand what AWS is, how to make the best use of it, and that side of thing. And then January, I decided to move slightly to the dark side, more management. So now my role is looking after sort of AWS programs and operations. How can we make this better for our customers? And then building that relationship between Amazon and ourselves and understanding those elements. So just to preface that, I was a senior solution architect at Amazon for 5 years. So a lot of experience in understanding the culture and the things that we should be doing that we may not necessarily be doing to make it better anyway. So that's where my role is at the moment.
Gotcha. So you've seen both sides of that equation. I guess. Yeah. You say you were there 5 years ago, or you were there for 5 years?
I was at Amazon 2 years ago for 5 years. So 2015. Right. Yeah, I started.
Gotcha. Yeah, all those programs seem to have changed a lot over the last 2 years. I imagine it's a completely different beast from your perspective as well now.
They seem to change every 10 minutes. I don't know about 2 years ago.
that's probably
Amazon
fair.
Reinventing that flywheel.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of reinvent, that's a good segue, isn't it? I should be on radio with this. So speaking of reinventing things, I believe we were all at Reinvent, right? The three of us were there in person. Obviously, I didn't see you there, Jason, but obviously saw Matt. How was your sort of COVID Reinvent experience? Matt, why don't you tell me how it went for you? Have you been during non-pandemic times? Have you got a comparison point?
Yeah, I've been a couple of times. I think the last time I went was 2017. I liked it. A little bit smaller, a little bit easier to kind of get around the corridors, but still nowhere near what you'd call a small conference. But it was like a good non-crazy full, cannot get anywhere, no way of getting into sessions if you turn up late because there's no spare seats. It just felt right, to be honest. It was nice.
How about you, Jason? Was that your experience as well?
Yeah, no, I've been to lots as an employee, but this is my first time as a customer / partner. So for me, it was a completely different experience. So normally it's sort of 16-hour days running around like a mad person just trying to get everything done and stepping in and helping out where things break down or people disappear, whatever it may be. So this year was lovely for me, simply because I was on the other side of the fence and I could do what I wanted to. So that was really lovely. The organization was fantastic. The event, I think most of it was really good. And back to Matt's point in terms of actually being able to get into sessions, that was awesome, rather than, just having no hope of getting into anything and having to book it up weeks in advance type of thing and desperately waiting for that announcement to say, yes, all the sessions are open now, go book. So that was great. The only thing I think could have been better was some of the content could have been a bit stronger, but hey, it was a difficult year for everybody. So kudos to Amazon for getting it up and running.
Yep, good stuff. So, am I right in thinking that actually, as an Amazon employee, you're actually not allowed to attend quite a lot of the stuff because they're saving the chairs for the punters, the paying people?
You're not allowed to attend any of them. There was a way a couple of years ago that I was able to attend because I was working with the marketing department and we were sort of capturing questions and videos and stuff like that of the event. So I was allowed to attend in that case. But then again, I still didn't get to choose. It was like, we want to do some information on this particular event or that particular thing. So go and do that and go and ask some pertinent questions or whatever it may be. So, but yeah, there is no choice. You cannot go in. You can't stop customers going in. And like Matt said, they're always oversubscribed.
Yeah.
Previous colleague of mine is working currently at Amazon and was there on site. So we hung out quite a bit, and by the end of it, he was just going insane. He's like, there are so many things I want to do, and you would think because I have an Amazon badge, I'd be able to do them, but obviously customers come first. So it was really good to see that Amazon properly enforced that, because by the end of it, he was actively trying to get into things. And
is that our mutual friend, Matt, or
it is our mutual friend? You can imagine he is the kind of person that would go, sod it, I'm just going to try and get into this and see what happens.
Yeah. No, I get that. We actually had dinner, he and I, that week, and his mental state seemed fine, so no need to worry too much about it. Just as an aside for those of you viewing the stream, if you do have any questions about the stuff that we're talking about this evening, do throw them into the chat, and I will try and sort of bring them into the conversation. It'd be interesting to ask, actually, is anybody else who is on the feed right now, were you at Reinvent? How was that for you? Be good to hear that. Was it your first one? Have you been before? Are you just hoping to live vicariously through our Reinvent experiences, and that's why you've joined the feed? Do tell us your Reinvent stuff. I guess, obviously, one of the big things about Reinvent is the new products announcements, or the sort of announcements around changes to products. Obviously, I'm always astounded when we start at the start of the week at Reinvent. I sort of look back at the last few weeks and see what's been going on. You'd sort of expect that everything would quieten down in the Amazon product machine ahead of Reinvent, so they have something to announce. But it's busier. There's like all this stuff that they announce ahead of time before Reinvent even starts. So I guess let's think about those announcements as well as what was announced on the stage. Matt, any particular sort of big standout announcements for you that were exciting or that seemed really relevant for the customers you work with?
That entire couple of weeks, like you said, I guess that's the benefit and the downside of having a billion different services. Those 2 weeks were a bit of a blur, so I'm struggling to remember what was a pre-announcement and what was an actual announcement. But obviously, from the security perspective, I'm not particularly bothered about the container registry kind of pull-through proxy stuff, but I know that a lot of people that are dealing with kind of production workloads and looking at securing kind of software supply pipelines were really happy with that feature. Very, very happy to see kind of more work going into automated detection, inspection, and things like that. But yeah, I wouldn't put money on whether that was announced beforehand or in a session that I attended.
I think it was announced during Reinvent. That's my recollection of it. It was certainly sort of around that, very near around that time. So I guess for those watching, that this is the ECR container registry, being able to pull in containers from external repositories or external registries, so that you can then apply your scanning and your security rules to that. And so that you can be sure that all of the things that you are deploying into your container ecosystem on AWS have come from something that's flowed through that repo, right? Really, really kind of useful for knowing where your stuff is coming from, or at least improving the chances that you know where your stuff has come from. It's a difficult problem.
Yeah, and then also being able to kind of, have that hybrid. I want to lock everything down so that my clusters can only talk to that registry and no outbound access, but also not having to go and manually do all that pull through when you're initially setting things up and doing that first deployment. So yeah, kind of a nice step in the right direction to a more kind of secure set of dependencies.
Yeah, and I guess relevant in the Lambda world as well now that you can build Lambdas from container images, which was an announcement from the previous year's reInvent, or maybe the year before that. Time is quite complex at the moment, isn't it? It's difficult to tell exactly when.
I wanna stake a bet on that being the virtual one during lockdown. I think.
Yeah, I think that might be right there. So John's asking, does the ECR pull through have a lagged let everyone else get pwned ahead of me setting that keeps one N revisions behind the public registry? I don't know the answer to that. Do either of you have an answer to that question?
I don't know, but I think it should be a feature request that we put forward.
Yep, seems fair. I imagine you could probably do that with. So there are some patterns. I think Mark Nunikoven talked about this when he was on our feed last year, where in order to push container updates across your estate, you can use EventBridge events as new container versions become available, and then use that to trigger reprovisioning of stuff in your estate. So I guess you could probably put that sort of let's have the last but one version in your lambdas, or maybe kind of, I don't know, stick a delay in there to leave it sort of half a day just to make sure that you don't catch anything nasty.
Downloads greater than 10 million, then
yeah, that'd be fun. Any standouts for you, Jason, either in the security domain or otherwise?
There was one in the security domain that sort of is not directly security domain related, but sort of filled me with a bit of fear. And that's the RDS custom that you can have as well now.
Right.
So I don't know if you saw that. So this is the ability to sort of run as, in terms of SQL Server, as SA. It's all of those. And I can see where it's positioned. I can see how it's positioned and why. And it's attracting enterprises to start using SQL Server in a way on RDS, still getting all the benefits of RDS. But obviously with RDS, it's a very limited subset of security that you can actually manage on there. They decide, Amazon decide on how you can use this, what's the best way to do it, and effectively you can go run your SQL code. Now with custom, you can now do some things that you shouldn't normally be able to do. For example, T-SQL, go and pull into that there and run it as the SA user. That fills me with dread in terms of allowing the customers to do what they think is right in RDS. And they've taken some provisions in terms of, making sure they can't mess with the replication partners and that sort of side of it as well.
Yeah.
So I see where it's coming from, but I like the sort of shared security model. This is where you stop and this is where we start. That one really blurs those lines.
Yes.
And that's the one that sort of fills me with dread, because the flip side of it is that whilst it's great to get those enterprises, I mean, it could just be a legacy application equally as well.
Mm-hmm.
But to get those on board, great. But are you fundamentally going to change the way that they're approaching cloud or doing what they're doing by enabling that sort of behavior? That sort of that's the scary part for me as well.
Yes, yeah. It's
it's like.
My understanding of that offering then is that you see the EC2 instance that a deployment of your database runs on, but you run an agent on it that makes it behave like an RDS cluster. So automated updates and security changes are sort of filtered in through the Amazon control plane, but you can still get into the database as a root user and do whatever you like on there. And I think so. I guess my sort of initial thoughts around that are, I know of a number of customers who've used third-party plugins to their database that are maybe a little too niche for Amazon to think about actually productizing and making available as an RDS plugin, but either for sort of reporting or some weird GIS stuff or something like that, exactly. where those users were probably already running the databases on EC2, and now they don't have to do as much running that database, and probably that improves where they are from today, but still leaves those machines open to being kind of mismanaged, I suppose.
I just don't think it's an update not just going to become an automated breaking.
Well, I mean, that is a concern, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, it's more about that sort of boundary of control. Really, it's like it was pretty bulletproof. There's very little you could do inside RDS that would have any material impact on its availability to you. I mean, sure, you could take it down, delete it, create backups and those sort of things, but there was so little that you could actually do to actually break it. Now the scope seems to be a lot bigger, that's all. So I don't know how that's going to pan out. It might be perfect, but my initial reaction to that was, whoa, that doesn't smell good. It solves a lot of problems, don't get me wrong, but it's solving the problems by sort of simplifying or allowing customers to do things that they really shouldn't be doing anyway.
Yeah, that's a fair take, I think. Was there anything that was announced that didn't give you the fear, Jason?
Yeah, again on RDS, I don't know what was with it. I'm no database expert, but the RDS guru side of it as well, to actually really dive into and getting some deep, meaningful data around how your application's performing, that sort of monitoring, observability side of it as well, and the guru side of it in terms of actually making recommendations, finding those long-running queries, all of that side of it was absolutely awesome. I haven't had the ability to try it myself just yet, but certainly from reading about it and having a look at it, it looks like one of those things that can really make a big difference. You see a lot of customers doing very bad things with databases, and
isn't that what they're there for?
Could be, but this is one of those things that sort of demystifies it as well. It's like, a lot of the times it's like, oh yeah, why is this application slow? Oh, it must be the network, it must be the application. A lot of the times it's just some horrible inner join that you've done in a SQL database that just shouldn't be there. So this is a way of sort of discovering that, and then effectively, you can start reducing those costs. I see customers just scaling vertically their databases, because by doing that, suddenly the long running query goes away and it's halved its time, but it's doubled your costs. So should you really be just dumping in and doubling out costs and everything else? Because eventually that reaches a plateau that there is no bigger box anymore. So now what are you going to do? So whether or not you want to afford it, there is a threshold that you can't move on past that. So for me, that's a great sort of cost optimization tool. It allows you to focus more on, should we be doing this? Is there a better way of doing this? This is the most secure way of doing this. Oh, I didn't realize this application or this particular query was going out and reaching out to all these different places. So just that observability. And for me, that was the real standout announcement. If there were standout announcements at Reinvent 2021, that would be the one for me.
Yeah, good stuff. Matt, anything else that comes to mind? I see someone in the feed, Gaija has shared a link to a list of announcements that help jog your memory about what was announced.
I've very much thanked him with my with my Twitch handle, which is good. Yeah, there were a couple of things that I thought I'd watched a session on, which actually came afterwards. So, compounding the blur there. Couple of things really for me. I was on a non-security perspective. So something that annoyed me, I guess, on a security perspective was I am always still underwhelmed by the scope of the security options. And I get it. I get that, the party line is it's better to have multiple security tools so that one security tool to rule them all, run by one team at Amazon, doesn't miss something. And I get that. But I think it's it kind of to me shows where like every service being its own team and its own dev kind of does lack a little bit, in the same way we see like non-fully fleshed out IAM scopes for certain services. Like I want something that just really does respond and proactively tie more security stuff together. I want the ability to say, this is a small team that has no security people. I would rather you had an admission controller style block on things that they could do which would expose them to risk, rather than provide them another service with extra alerts that they need to go and focus on. Like give me like a newbie security button that right. helps people do more kind of secure by default stuff, even if it comes with a little bit of frustration. So I was kind of hoping for a bit more than just kind of Kubernetes scanning for vulnerabilities in what's the word I'm looking for? Inspector,
right?
Things like that. I was just looking for more capabilities than were added. But
is there Matt, to that question? Is there a service or an application or anything else that does that right now that you could sort of create an analog to? Because I don't know of such a thing.
Oh, well, if you're asking,
Are you going to say Bridge Crew? Is this where we're going with this?
But that is exactly what our company bridgecrew.io
Well,
does.
hey, I would never have known.
We try and apply policies for security from the moment you start writing infrastructure as code in VS Code or IntelliJ, all the way through to detecting drift on what you wrote in VS Code through your pipeline, and then finding that drift in kind of AWS or, pick your favorite cloud.
Sure.
Gotcha.
But it's still, our users are probably quite advanced down that line of understanding DevOps enough to know that
there is a problem in that, right? I guess.
Right, exactly. And to kind of implement DevSecOps and to kind of realize that you need to shift that security requirements into your dev teams. I'm talking about, like you said, your kind of enterprises that are just kind of plonking SA level databases and things into, and more we're seeing the definition of on-prem being, I have my own VPC in a cloud provider. That's all kinds of scary.
Yeah, I'm okay with that, to be honest. I'd rather see that than actual physical on-prem hardware these days. But so I guess
unless it's running at one of the Anywhere services, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Or outposts.
Yes.
Right.
So I think there are some ways of sort of getting to that security posture in the existing AWS ecosystem, but they do require a lot. You have to know that they're there. You have to know that you need to be thinking about them. It's the sort of thing that I'm sure Jason, as a AWS partner, and certainly we do, is one of those activities when you're setting up new stuff for customers, or when you're going to remediate some security issues. Is you sort of start at that and go, okay, let's turn off all of this stuff and let's enable this dashboard and so forth. But you have to know to do that, and it's sort of non-differentiated, but you still have to do it all, which is I think the challenge there. But it's an evolving landscape. You mentioned Outpost, but let's talk about the other sort of weird on-prem stuff that was announced. AWS private 5G, build your own 5G phone network in your premises. Like any thoughts on that?
That is actually in my list of things I wanted to talk about that aren't security related. Like not just the 5G thing, although that is so cool. And I'm like, how the hell are they getting away with offering that when, FCC conversations around licensing would take years usually. So they're actually using a civil broadband band that doesn't require specific per use licenses, and managing the spectrum and sharing the spectrum with online and things. So that's a really clever way of kind of previewing their technology and building that out. But just a moment to think that from a cloud that is all about the cloud, it's insane just how many kind of physical devices that are cloud managed we are now seeing. Not only 5G, you can get cloud managed Wi-Fi meshes. We're seeing, all the Alexa devices and things like that. They're building their own silicon, obviously, with Graviton. Like,
Panorama.
It's so interesting that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that it's kind of gone full circle, that to innovate further now into other industries, they are actually building cloud managed hardware, which for me was like a really interesting takeaway, as like this is something to watch. Like there is something there.
Gotcha.
For me, I think they're just enabling, large parts of the market that wouldn't necessarily be able to directly talk to Amazon in terms of Amazon Web Services anyway. So, you look at the huge enterprises, the car manufacturers, the oils and pharmaceuticals and all these sort of things as well, that really want to keep it nice and neat and tidy all in one thing, so not having to have this diversification, and therefore those security boundaries and all that side of it as well. Some of the hardware is quite cool. Some of the hardware is really poor. You're better off with a Raspberry Pi and doing it that way. So, but yeah, no, I like to see some of the hardware. I've played with a lot of it in the past. Most of the time it's cheaper, better, faster to do it somewhere else, but it's nice to have it sort of semi-integrated and part of that support as well. So and the Outpost thing, get it. There's plenty of customers that have their stuff that they need almost 0 millisecond latency, but then being able to roll it out in the same way that they can roll out on real cloud, by having it locally, awesome for them. It sort of removes some of those barriers, enables them to run faster in a more sort of orchestrated way that they're doing already, i.e. using it in AWS, crack on and do it locally as well. So the two new servers that they brought in there, it was great to see there's a Graviton one in there as well. So lovely stuff.
Yes, and Graviton 3 was announced at Reinvent as well, right? The latest generation of Amazon's own chips, apparently with specific features that enable certain types of inference to be faster. I don't really care about ML. If Phil was here, as he should have been, we'd have probably covered some of the ML stuff in a bit more detail. There was a lot of SageMaker stuff announced, but I tend to skip that keynote because it's not really very interesting to me, to be honest. Graviton 3, interesting, reducing the price, improving performance, improving energy usage as well is all pretty interesting stuff. Lots of price reductions as well, like S3 storage and CloudFront. Obviously, a change to the pricing that was almost certainly motivated by one of the other CDN vendors making a whole bunch of stuff free. I think Cloudflare released a bunch of free stuff that forced Amazon's hand on that one. But yeah, interesting savings on DynamoDB, CloudFront, S3. Some good stuff there. We're coming up on time. Is there anything that you were hoping to see but didn't, or anything that you'd like to predict for this year as a sort of theme for what we might see at Reinvent 2022? Jason, why don't you kick off with that one?
Yeah, sure. What I've loved being a partner, so coming out from Amazon and then going to a partner, what I'd love to have seen is a more focus on the ability for partners to onboard customers, because as you know how tightly coupled the payment side of it and the technical side of AWS are, it makes it very, very difficult for partners to consolidate customers on board. Not so much to leave, but there's always this, how do we manage a root account and all these sort of elements as well. So what I'd love to have seen is an enablement of partners to move quicker to onboard customers, as equally as to offboard them when the customer decides to leave. Alas, there was nothing that enabled any of that sort of devolution, if you like, of the account and the payment of the account. So for me, that would have been the lovely thing, and that's the thing I've been asking Amazon for years, but no. And then predictions, it's going to be ML, and ML plus S3 with ML. So
Fair. Yeah, I think anything that involves multiple account management is sort of hampered by the fact that the sort of account management primitives were sort of invented a very long time ago.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're fighting to a lot of legacy. I listened to, I can't remember whether this was just an ambassadors only kind of talk or one of the public ones, but they Bridget Johnson, who's the queen of IAM, was talking about a certain amount of the limitations that exist around. You'd love to be able to just sort of provision and deprovision accounts really easily, and it turns out that's using code that was released 15 years ago, and it turns out there's a lot of legacy to solve.
I mean, that's where the other cloud vendors have been able to sort of lean into that to say, okay, you've been doing this wrong for the last 6 or 7 years, we're going to do this a completely different way. So I understand why. I just want them to giddy up and fix it.
Yep, fair. Matt, anything that you were hoping to see and didn't see, or any predictions for the Reinvent 2022?
Yeah, predictions for Reinvent 2022. Obviously, 3 scoops of ML, but also more cloud-managed physical stuff. I'm going to stake a statement on that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. We're recording this, right?
Yeah, I know.
We're going to come back next year and we'll go, a year ago.
I am that serious, yeah. Things I am disappointed to see, I keep banging this drum, very much related to Jason's point, and probably the reasoning behind it is the same as what you've just said, John. I want, effectively as a customer, to be able to buy an instance of Event Engine, because Amazon is so big now that if we're trying to train people up, if we're trying to kind of get, whether it's students, whether it's people moving into tech, like AWS itself, how you manage it, how you configure it, how you secure it, is as much a technical hurdle as the code and the actual things you're deploying on it.
Yep.
And without the ability to really easily, as a partner, as a company, just go, hey, I'm giving you all an account for this webinar that's safe, and you don't have to worry about billing, and then we can rip it down as soon as the training session's over, for universities, for sessions, for sales. Obviously, shout out to Yaniv and our kind of SEs, SAs that do an amazing job of giving us access to Event Engine for our own webinars and things, and we love working with them. But to be able to do that ourselves sometimes, it'd be super powerful.
Yeah. So Event Engine is, for those watching and unfamiliar, that's the system by which, if you're doing a game day with Amazon, like the unicorn rental stuff that they do from time to time, or the security game day, Event Engine is how they generate accounts with all of that sort of game day stuff in it and provide you with credentials to log in and so forth. And it is entirely the case that right now you have to engage a partner solutions architect to run that up for you. I believe that is the goal. I think they want to get to the point where you can do that as a partner, but I think they're a little way off that. Internal tooling needs a lot of polishing before it can be sort of handed out willy-nilly to the likes of us, I guess.
Just release Isengard. That would be perfect. There's an internal tool at Amazon which allows you to provision accounts and that sort of thing.
Right.
And as a lonely little SA, I was able to provision more and more accounts. But there is a tool called Isengard which allows you to manage all of that and your manager to manage it and everything else.
Yeah.
But as a partner tool, that thing would be awesome. I mean, and as an enablement tool for any customer that has more than one account, acquisitions, enterprises, all of that sort of thing, it would be so good. Just release it, guys. Just release it out to the world. We'll play with it. It's fine. Honestly, we won't sell.
Yeah, we'll keep putting pressure on the right people for that. So my testers. Yeah. Absolutely. So my ask is as it has been for the last 2 or 3 years, can we have Cognito that isn't shit? Is really the thing, right? Can we have a Cognito that works well for B2B style SaaS solutions? Can we back it up, please? Can it be in more than one region? Like, there's a load of operational pain in Cognito that exists and has never been solved. I've been trying to talk to the Cognito team about their roadmap for about the last 12 months, and they're very slippery. The ambassador team is trying to get us access to that as well, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll talk about it in the new year, and well, hello, it's the new year, what's going on? But we'll keep putting pressure on that one as well. That's my wish list. So my hope for Reinvent 2022, replacement for Cognito. I can't see that happening, but it'd be nice. We've got Jabbersoft added their sort of take. It'd be nice to have a richer CI/CD experience, plugging into the many AWS services when needed, that when deploying and managing apps and infrastructure, self-hosting Jenkins and a bunch of custom Terraform is pretty dull. Yep, that's probably fair. The CI/CD experience with the code pipeline stuff is a little bit kind of bare bones, isn't it? But maybe we'll see some improvements there. So fingers crossed. Cognito, yeah, Cognito would be a great name for the Cognito replacement. Plus one for Cognito from Pentafox UK. Yep. We'd all love to see it. Anyone who's been anywhere near it will know that. One of the problems is that it's about a tenth of the price of any of the commercial offerings, so it's still really kind of still really attractive to try. And all the pain points you learn later when you kind of come to think about backups after you've built your product. So lots of pain there.
Well, double the price on version 2 and call it Cognito, and I think everybody would be happy as long as it solves those problems.
Absolutely, good stuff. Cool. Well, thanks for joining us on the stream today, Jason, and to Matt. Thanks for jumping in at the last minute. It's been great chatting with you. I will come and find you in Manchester for a pint when I'm officially in the north. In the meantime, do feel free to hang around and chat in the Twitch chat as we carry on with the proceedings of the evening. Other than that, I will let you get back to your families, coding, whatever it is that you're spending your time doing. So thanks very much, chaps.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the invite. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. All right.
Cheers.
So you can right now still enter our prize draw if you're interested in winning an Echo or an Echo Dot. The prizes we can only deliver to UK addresses, so please do only answer if you are able to take a delivery in the UK. I'm sure Paul, eagle-eyed and paying attention to this stream, will also share the web link in the chat. We will be drawing that during the next presentation, and we'll hopefully be drawing during the next presentation. Hopefully, I will have some winners for you to announce at the end of the next session, which is my colleague Sandro and my colleague Matt, who will be talking you through how they got AWS certified and why you should as well. So over to them.
Hi, I'm Sandro and I'm here with my colleague Matt to talk about how we passed our AWS certifications and why you should too. I am a consultant at the Scale Factory, a cloud infrastructure consultancy and AWS advanced consulting partner, and I hold the AWS Solutions Architect Professional, the CSOPS Administrator Associate, and the Security Specialty certifications.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm also a consultant at the Scale Factory. I've recently joined the hiring team here, so I can share my perspectives on how I evaluate candidates who have certifications. I've recently recertified my AWS Solutions Architect Professional, which I did during lockdown, and as well as that, I've taken my Kubernetes Certified Administrator and the Terraform Associate certifications.
In this presentation, we are going to give you an overview of AWS certifications, talk about the benefits associated to AWS certifications, techniques and resources to prepare for the exam, and some practicalities before concluding. Here, I want to give you an overview of all the AWS certifications available, as well as the recommended certification path. At the bottom of the certification stack, we have the foundational certification, and in particular, the Cloud Practitioner certification. This certification is good for anyone starting with the AWS Cloud in a junior role and gives you an overview of the key services in AWS and the basic knowledge of AWS infrastructure, as well as security and billing. At the Scale Factory, we also have project managers and salespeople who have this certification, and I would definitely recommend it to people in a non-technical role, as well as junior engineers. The next level in the stack is the associate level, and in here we have the Solutions Architect certification, the CSOPS Administrator certification, and the Developer certification. The Solutions Architect certification is geared towards solutions architects and focuses more on AWS architecture and design principles. The CSOPS Administrator certification is aimed at people in operation like sysadmins. At the moment, this is the only certification which contains a practical exam lab as part of the exam. All the other certification exams are in the form of multiple choice questions. In the CSOPS exam, a third of the exam is a set of practical tasks that you need to perform via the AWS console or the command line. Finally, the developer certification is aimed at developers and focuses more on cloud-based app services and serverless architecture. AWS recommends at least 1 year experience with AWS for taking the certifications at the associate level. The next level in the stack is the professional level, and in here we have the Solutions Architect Professional, often referred to as SA Pro, and the DevOps Engineer Professional. You can see in the slide the path that is leading towards the SA Pro or the DevOps Pro. The SA Pro focusing more on architecture, while the DevOps Pro focusing more on development and operation, but there is a certain overlap between the two certifications. Note that a few years ago, AWS removed any prerequisite to get the professional certifications. Before, you needed to have the associate certification before taking the exam for the professional certification. So now we can go immediately for the professional certification if you like. AWS recommends at least 2 years of professional experience with AWS to take a professional exam. The next category of certification is what AWS calls the specialty certifications. This type of certification focuses on a specific segment of the AWS cloud like networking, data analytics, databases, machine learning, and security. There is an additional specialty certification that AWS is about to launch, which is SAP on AWS. All these specialty certifications are great if you want to specialize on a specific aspect of the AWS cloud. AWS recommends at least 1 or 2 years of experience in the specialty area. To get more info about the different certifications, I'll give you a link at the end of the presentation to the official AWS certification page and the link to a short ebook with an overview of AWS certifications. Let's talk about benefits of getting certified. From the point of view of individuals, you can have a better job opportunities and salary with an AWS certification. AWS certified engineers are in high demand in the job market. For example, AWS consultancy partners like the Scale Factory need to have a certain amount of AWS certifications in order to retain their AWS consultancy status and move to the next consulting tier. So they are big recruiters of AWS certified engineers. Another reason is professional growth. For example, if you want to deepen your AWS knowledge and progress your career. Finally, you might want to be a role model in your team and become the AWS go-to expert in your organization, upskill your team and motivate other colleagues to get certified. There are also benefits from the point of view of employers. As an employer, you can identify skilled IT professionals via AWS certifications for recruiting purposes, internal mentoring, and for career progression.
I'd also like to talk about some of the reasons why people might not take certifications or might think that they're not for them. The first one being that they don't think they have the time or money to study for them. Most employers are going to be able to help with your certification, whether it's by funding it or allowing you to study on the job. Some companies, like the Scale Factory, have a dedicated policy about giving employees time to continue their professional development. At Scale Factory, we have 10 days a year we can spend on whatever professional development we like, and anytime we pass a certification, we get awarded bonus days to encourage us to do more of them. Even if your company doesn't have a policy like that, consider asking your manager for some time every day to study, whether it's half an hour, and if it's directly relevant to your role, I think you'll find they'll be quite amenable. Even if your employer isn't helping at all, I still think AWS certs have an incredible return on investment. So if you're self-funding, you can get a Udemy course for the SA Pro for $13. Some practice tests are going to cost you another $20, $30. And the exam itself for the SA Pro is going to be worth $300. So all in all, you're going to spend a few $100s, but if you pass that exam, you're going to notice a much bigger boost to your salary than you've invested in that monetary cost. Some people are scared that they don't think they're ready, or they think they're going to fail the exam, or they don't think the exams are for you. There's an exam for most people, so the SA Pro is the highest for the Solution Architects track, but the Cloud Practitioner is suitable for entry-level people or people just starting out, or even non-technical people. So at the Scale Factory, our project managers and our client engagement managers have taken and passed the Cloud Practitioner, just so they have an idea what we're all talking about. Passing any exam is going to give you a voucher that gives you 50% off your next exam. So if you're worried about failing one, you can always take the exam that's one lower down that. Say you're thinking about taking the SA Pro, you can take the SA Associate. If you pass that, you should feel confident that you will do if you're trying to take the SA Pro. If you pass that, then you'll get a voucher for 50% off your next exam, and that can actually be more cost efficient than just going for the exam that you want. So the Cloud Practitioner exam currently costs $100, the SA Associate is $150, and the SA Pro is $300. So a 50% off your SA Pro is worth $150 to you. If you don't think it's worth going through all this time and effort to get the certification, I disagree. I think they're incredibly valuable in the market. I would dampen that with that they're not magic. If you just study the questions until you can pass the exam, if you pass all 8 of them, it's not going to guarantee you a 6-figure job. If you are taking the time to engage in the material, understand it, and use that to bolster your existing experience, you're going to have a skill set which is very valuable in this market, and you're going to be able to prove it to someone who might have a lot of applicants that you're a higher quality. I think that's definitely going to reflect in the offers and the salary offers that you receive.
Here I want to give you a list of study resources that can help you preparing for an AWS certification exam. And then I'll let Matt give you his advice on techniques on how to use some of these resources. The first resource I want to mention is video courses, since they are geared towards getting the certification you need. I personally use a Cloud Guru and Udemy video courses in the past, but there are plenty of other providers too. Other video training I can recommend is the one provided by AWS via their recently rebranded Skill Builder library. In particular, I want to single out the Exam Readiness course, which prepares you to sit an AWS certification exam. If you've never done an exam before, take this free course, as it gives you lots of information about the mechanics of an AWS exam, as well as a mock-up questions. I'd also recommend Reinvent videos, as they give you a deep dive on a specific service. I personally like reading books, and I use the official study guide published by Wiley for the CSOPS exam. It was a good book and also contained practice questions, mock exams, and additional resources like flashcards. If you have worked with AWS and you are then familiar with the AWS documentation, which you should be using on a regular basis, AWS white papers are also a great source of information. In particular, focus on those white papers which are mentioned as recommended reading for the certification that you want to take. And finally, I want to mention some resources for hands-on practice, as nothing can replace practical experience. The more you use AWS in real use cases, the better you'll get. But if you have gaps on some AWS services and you want to learn them in a practical way, AWS provides hands-on labs that you can follow. Finally, practice your exam as much as you can. Video courses and books provide you with mock exams, and you can also buy practice exams from AWS. There are sometimes free vouchers for these mock exams, as well as practice exams from Tutorials Dojo, Udemy, and WizLab. I definitely recommend the practice exams from Tutorials Dojo for the professional exams, as they are very close to what you get in the real exam.
I've settled into a routine of how I study for certifications and exams, and it varies a little depending on how much I know about the area. If I don't feel like I know the area very well, it's something new to me, my first port of call is always a video series that's specifically designed for that exam. These offer quite a lot of structure, which makes it easy to do a little chunk each day without feeling lost, and it also is motivating to see my progress through the course. These normally tell you everything you need to know for the exam, but no more, which means they can be quite time efficient. I normally watch them at quite a fast playback speed and skip videos already when I feel I already understand the content. And my goal here is to try and understand everything that's going to be on the exam. I don't necessarily have the ability to answer all the questions, but I know all the areas that I need to focus on. And this is my baseline. If I already had a good baseline, so for example, if I was recertifying for an exam that I've already taken, I might skip this step and go straight to the next one where I'm taking practice quizzes. I always take practice quizzes very early in the process, way before I'm ready to sit the actual exam, and I'll get lots of questions wrong, and that's fine. What I'm looking for here is a list of areas where I know that what I know is good enough, and a list of areas where I need to focus on improving if I'm going to pass. I like to use a third-party website called WizLabs for this. They are cheaper than taking the AWS practice exam, the official one. They also have many, many exams, so you can repeat this process more often, and they give quite good feedback as well. Once I have the areas that I need to focus on, I like to use something called Definement Technique, and if you haven't heard of it, it's definitely worth looking into more than I'm going to talk about it. But the gist is, try and explain a concept as simply as you can, as if to a child or to a non-expert. If you can do this about a concept, there's a good chance you understand it quite well. If you struggle to explain it simply, or you find yourself relying on jargon, or you don't quite understand what you're saying, it's a good sign that you need to go back to the documentation and read more about it. In my recent exam was my recert of the SA Pro, and I was struggling with some of the hybrid networking questions as I'd never worked in a hybrid environment. Asking myself simple questions like, what is a transit gateway? Or what's the difference between a transit gateway and a direct connect gateway? Really highlighted that I didn't know. I would read the AWS documentation to find the answer, and I prefer to read AWS documentation at this point rather than going back to the video series. I like to search through the docs are searchable, and so I don't have to scrub through a video to find the piece of information that I'm looking for. And also, as I said, the exams tell you, the video series tends to tell you everything you need to know and no more, so sometimes they might just say, just remember that this is the case, rather than give you a deep, intuitive understanding of it. Because the AWS exams are multiple choice, having an intuitive understanding of what the service is and how it's supposed to work is often enough to answer the question. They like to write questions so that all the possibilities look plausible. So for example, how do you store something in S3 or RDS? Now, if all you know about those services is there's something to do with storage, then you wouldn't know how to answer that question. If you know that S3 is object storage, and you know that RDS is a transactional database, and you know what the differences between those two are, then you've probably got enough information to quickly eliminate one. Object storage just can't do that, so that I can eliminate the S3 answer, it must be RDS, and similar. So I find this is quite an effective way to study for exams. I'm just going to talk briefly about the practicalities of taking the exam at home, so a remote proctored exam, or going to a test centre. The benefits of doing it at home for me was that I had a comfortable environment, so I have a nice chair and monitors and keyboard and mouse that I know and like. I get to reuse those, and I also found it was more flexible, being able to book an exam at any time of the day or night rather than when the test centre is open, and I was able to reschedule my home exam with only 24 hours notice. You may be able to do that for a test centre as well, but it seems likely to me that a remote proctored exam will be more flexible. The downside of doing it at home is you have to make your environment suitable for the exam, which can be quite time consuming. You need to read the requirements the provider gives you, so they might not allow multiple monitors, they might not allow anything on the walls, you might have to declutter things or move things out of the room temporarily in order to take the exam. If you go to a test centre, then all of that will be taken care of for you. You won't need to install anything on your laptop, you won't need to have a webcam, you just go to the test centre and that will be provided. So it's potentially less effort and there's fewer requirements. The downside of the test centre is you have less control over the environment. You might not like the keyboard or the seat that you're on. I've been into a test centre where there was a meeting room next door and I could hear them having quite an animated discussion. I found that quite distracting. So I prefer doing exams at home in the future. I'll talk a little bit about the hiring perspective. So when I see a CV, with lots of certs on it, what do I think? What do I like to see? This is very personal choices. It's not that this is what I like to see or prefer. I'm not going to throw your CV away if you don't do exactly these things. So I like seeing the certifications that match people's practical experience. So if you've been working with AWS for 5 years, I'm not going to really be that impressed by a cloud practitioner certification. And if you've been working with AWS for 6 months and you're applying for a junior level, I'm going to be a bit suspicious that you've managed to get an SA Pro if you have that on your CV, that you've really understood all the material in order to operate at that kind of level. I like to see a variety of certifications. We get a lot of applicants with 5, 6, 7, 11 AWS certs. I think if you've got the time and money and energy to do that many certifications, I would recommend that you spread them out amongst other providers. So think about getting a Terraform cert from HashiCorp, or if you do anything with containers, then get something from Docker or Kubernetes. If you're a developer who's trying to move into DevOps, then maybe get something from the Linux Foundation that proves you know how a Linux system works. Consider finding 1 or 2 exams or certifications from AWS that really match your practical experience, and then look at other providers for other things that would supplement that nicely, rather than just getting every AWS certification under the sun. I also like seeing certifications that were taken a while ago, so don't hold out until you're looking for a new job. If you took an exam 2 years ago, it means you've got 2 years of practical experience using and understanding that content, and you're going to have a much better grasp of it than you've just learned the theory enough to take the exam. So that's what I like to see when I'm looking for certs, when I'm hiring, and that leads us to we're hiring. This is a fantastic job. I really like it here. If you do anything with AWS at the kind of senior to mid to senior level, we could find a role that's suitable for you. There's got quite a wide salary range there. My favorite things about this job, these aren't the only benefits, but these are the things I like it, is it's fully remote and flexible, so I work entirely from home and I can choose my hours as long as I meet my obligations. We've got really incredible colleagues here. I've learned so much since I've started, and I feel so much better at my job since I've started working here. And because the caliber of the staff is so high, it's a really high trust, low stress environment. People just get trusted to get on with it and get empowered a lot and get given a lot of responsibility, and I really like that. If you think about working for us, the best place to go is our careers page. We have all the information that you'll need, what our interview process looks like, what our timelines for starting new candidates look like, what all the benefits are. We've put loads of detail into this because we know that starting and finding a new job is hard, and you don't want to do a bunch of interviews for a job that might turn out to be not interesting to you. So if you check out our careers page, there's absolutely loads of information there. Also, our blog has recently had one post from a consultant about what it's like a day in the life of the Scale Factory, and there's another one about the hiring process and what it's like to be onboarded to us. So they're both really valuable if you're seeing what it would like to join us. And that is the end of our presentation.
Yes, Matt, we reached the end of this presentation. We hope you find it useful, and hopefully we convince you to get an AWS certification. Now, choose the best certification for your career, start studying and book your AWS certification exam. Here are some resources and links we mentioned during these presentations. Do not hesitate to get in touch and tell us about your certification journey. Thank you.
So that was my colleagues Matt and Sandro. I didn't actually ask Matt to plug the job quite so vociferously there, but I guess I do pay him, so it's nice that he's done that, which is great. He mentioned we're looking for mid to senior hires. We will be hiring juniors this year as well. We will have room on our roster to support, I think, a team of 3 juniors in sort of quick succession. So if you're earlier in your career and you're interested in working for the Scale Factory, love to hear from you. I'm going to stop shilling the company now and bring Sandro into the call. Thanks for joining us, Sandro. Thanks for your contribution there. I see you've shared the links from that last slide in the channel, which is awesome. I guess my question for you really is what was the most difficult cert that you've done, and what are you looking forward to doing next?
It's definitely the solutions architect professional. That was a tough one, both the preparation and the exam. I remember on the exam, which I passed just a couple of months ago, I'd used every single minute of the exam for just finished 30 seconds, I think, before the allocated time, and it wasn't the case for other certifications I did. So the professional exams are definitely the toughest one, in my opinion. Even just for reading the questions, it will take you several minutes just to really understand the questions, because they're definitely more complex than the one that you can find on the associate exams, or even on the security. I did the security specialty exam, and I found it less difficult, although still quite challenging compared to the solutions architect professional.
Yeah, and you're. I mean, although your English is of course excellent, you're not English isn't your first language, right? So, do they provide you with sort of options if you are? Can you take the exam in Italian? I don't even know whether that's the case.
I think you can take some exams actually in Italian. This has been fairly new. I think I can dig out the links, but I think there are some exams probably at the associate level or lower than the professional, where you can take them in another language. Definitely there is for Chinese, I think, and Japanese, but I think I've seen recently announcements for other European languages taking exam in French or Italian as well. Definitely for the associate exam. I might dig out the link for that. But the good thing is, if English is not your first language, you can ask for what is called an accommodation, so you can get 30 extra minutes of your exam by simply demonstrating that English is not your first language. I personally prefer to take exams in English as well, because this is the working language for me, so it would feel a little bit odd actually to sometimes read these things in another language other than English, because I'm definitely going to use then all the terminology in English. So for me, it was good to take it in English, even if I had the option. But bear in mind, if English is not your first language, then you can ask for these 30 minutes. Just remember to do it before you book the exam, as apparently you cannot get this accommodation after you book the exam. So you first ask for the accommodation when you log in your account, and then you get the accommodation, and then you book the exam. So make sure you follow this procedure, as they cannot add it afterwards.
Yeah. The other thing that I learned fairly early on, I think, is that because they check your identity before you take the exam. Your your name as you sign up for the exam has to match the name that is in your identity document. So my legal name is Jonathan, but I signed up for because I use John as my sort of professional name. I had to get that changed, and you have to do that before the exam as well. Otherwise, you might get unstuck. And that's particularly true if you're doing an online proctored exam, because the online proctoring is a little bit more following the rules, if you like, or quite dogmatic. Whereas in a test center in person, usually the person there is like, oh yeah, obviously John is short for Jonathan, just go ahead. So bear that in mind if you use a name that's different from the name on your identity, or your legal name. So worth bearing in mind. What's next for you, Sandra? What are you going to take next as your
I think he's the DevOps professional, simply because I have to recertify my associate, SysOps associate. As this year is 3 years since I took the SysOps associate. And when you go for the higher level exam, which is in your path, so in my case is the DevOps professional for the SysOps professional, then you can automatically get recertified also for the associate exam. So by taking my DevOps professional in the next months, and if I pass it, I will get the DevOps professional certification, but I will also automatically recertify for the SysOps associate. So you get basically a recertification and a new certification with just a single exam. So definitely, if you are at the time where you need to recertify, if your certification is reaching the 3 years end of life, think about going for the professional exam, because you will get basically 2 certifications for the price of one.
Yep, gotcha. There's a bit of chat in the Twitch stream, which or the Twitch. I always keep saying the Twitch stream. This is the Twitch stream. I'm on the Twitch stream. There's some chat in the Twitch chat that we'll go to. Yo-Yo, who is one of our organisers of this meetup, who herself has done quite a lot of certifications. I think didn't realise that she could get accommodations for non-English speaking taking of that exam, which good might be useful to know. Yo-Yo is not herself a first language English speaker. John says, recent this Twitter thread about how invasive or runner's root most of the proctoring software is. How is the test partners for this? What operating system did you take your exam on, Sandro, when you did that remotely?
So I'm quite interested in this discussion, because I'm a big fan of going to a test center.
Right, so yours were all in person.
Yeah, I only took the Terraform exam from this very room, and I didn't like the experience. There was a problem at some point. And this is exactly the reason why, personally, but this is my personal view. And I know Matt has got a completely different view, as you've heard from the presentation, because he prefers the proctor exam. For me, I can give you my point of view is that I prefer the test center, because it puts me in the exam mode. Even if I have to go to the exam center, but even the act of going, it's like a real exam as I used to do them when I was at school or at university. So it puts me in that mood, if you want to. But also, I don't have to install anything on my machine, and the software that you have to install is basically something that is spines on your computer and controls your camera. So I wouldn't feel particularly at ease, especially installing such a software on my work machine. And also, you have to make sure that your room is as they want it. So basically, you have to remove many things from your room. They ask you to inspect the room. You have to make sure that your internet connection is fine. So if you have a drop in the internet connection, it could be then a big problem. I had this during the Terraform exam. I don't know if it was my software, my internet connection, or their software, which crashed, one of the two, but it was a bit of it was just an additional worry that I had. So I personally prefer to go to a test center, but I can see advantages also of going to the proctor, to doing a proctor exam. You do it from the comfort of your home. You use your keyboard, your mouse, and so it might be a more welcoming environment for you, an environment you are used to. So some people might prefer the proctor exam, but watch out at the operating system you have, because I think there might be issues with, especially with installing the software on a Linux machine.
Yes, yeah. So I've taken my recent exam. So for those of you listening, I have the SA Pro and the Security Specialty certs and the DevOps Pro actually, and I recertified 2 of those recently, and I did that here in person on my dining table, which is just behind me there. So I'm a Mac user. The software that they sent, this is I think this is PSI rather than Pearson VUE. Just off the top of my head, I think our team has had some problems with Pearson VUE, Proctor's not showing up or whatever, and I think that's generally true. I hear that from some of the other ambassadors as well. But PSI, they give you an application to run on your Mac, and it doesn't need any root credentials, but it does make sure that you're not running anything other than that application. So you have to close other things down, and then it just gives you a full screen browser experience, and there's a sort of embedded video camera recording and screen for the proctor to see you. There's a phone app that you use as well, or a web page on the phone where they ask you to take a photograph of your workstation in front of you and to the sides and behind you, so that they can see that you don't have other people in the room, you don't have cheat sheets plastered all over your walls, that sort of thing. They ask you if you're going to be in a quiet environment, make sure that no one's going to walk in on you, and you have to take a photograph of your identity document and then a photograph of your face so that they can line the two up. It's not very onerous. Like I didn't find it too invasive. I know that other people maybe feel a little differently about that sort of stuff, but for me it was much easier than going to the test center. And certainly when I did one of those, we were in full-on pandemic, and so I couldn't do that anyway. So I actually prefer doing it at home. I believe the Windows experience is similar. I'm reasonably confident that you don't need to provide any super user access to your machine. As Tim on the chat here, is one of our colleagues, says, he actually runs he does the exams on Ubuntu, and he does that in a separate user account in order to protect himself and I guess the company's data and our customers' data against the test center doing something that isn't quite right with their software. So there are ways of working around it. I think if you're avoiding doing the exam because you don't like that environment, I think maybe you might be avoiding it for other reasons as well as that. But you can of course go and do that in person at a proctor. Jabbersoft says, I also liked having a pen and paper during the exam, which you can't do during the remote proctor. That is correct, yes. If you're at a test center, they give you a pen and paper and they'll take it off you at the end of the exam as well. You have to agree not to take questions away with you, obviously. So hopefully that's useful context for those of you who are thinking about or worrying about taking that exam. Do use the PSI option over Pearson VUE, because I think you'll have a better time of it. I can't speak about what their software is like, but the PSI stuff is perfectly fine. Do you do any kind of studying with other people, Sandro? Is studying for you a solitary activity, or do you have other people kind of encouraging you to get the exams? Any group activity around your practice?
Yeah, we do actually at the Scale Factory, and I encourage to do this. At other companies, if you're listening to and you want to bring some best practices, we do have a study group every fortnight where we discuss a service or a technology and I found these study groups really interesting because, first of all, I tend to read a little bit about it before. And I remember they helped me just to identify some of the services that I wasn't familiar with, that then I found on the exam, or I had to study in order to prepare for the exam. So we created a study group at the Scale Factory, and something very easy that you can do with your colleagues as well. And it could be a way to share knowledge. And there was a question also before in the chat about what is the motivation of taking a certification other than getting a new job? What if you're happy in your job? And this is, I think, it could be a very good reason is that you could be a role model for upskilling your team and motivating other people for taking these certifications, and having these informal study groups could be a good way of upskilling your team members, especially if you are leading a team and you need AWS knowledge. And we know how difficult it is to recruit good AWS engineers these days. So it's definitely something that an idea that you can use in your own company for upskilling, but also help other people with doing and studying for their certification exams.
Yeah, no, that's good context. Yeah, I mean, as you know, Sandro, but maybe others don't. I have not done any kind of hands-on AWS for our clients for probably 3 or 4 years now, and I keep my exams current as a way to sort of expose myself to knowledge about other parts of the ecosystem that I haven't used before. So my kind of experience comes from sort of just on the sort of cusp of Fargate, that sort of timing. But I like to be able to sort of talk about the rest of the platform. It's why I do things like Reinvent and keep an eye on the announcements. But taking the certifications is valuable for that as well. Also, because I'm part of the ambassador program, the partner ambassador program, I need an SA Pro in order to stay in that group of people and get access to the benefits of that, which include incidentally this rather snazzy ambassador lunchbox that I picked up at Reinvent. It's a big heavy Pyrex thing I had to bring back in my suitcase. So I keep my exams current so that I can get lunchboxes at Reinvent, apparently. So Jonathan's asking here, on the SysOps practical test, are you on a CLI with AWS --help available, or are you expected to have the exact commands memorized? So I haven't done any of the hands-on exams. I don't know if you have either, Sandro.
No.
I'm given to believe it's more command line, more console-based than CLI based, but I'm not actually sure. If there's anybody who's on the chat right now who has done one of those sort of hands-on exams, I don't know how actually in circulation they are yet, but a lot of them will go that way. Maybe I know Tim is an SME for some of the exams, a subject matter expert. He's sort of contributed to the questions that they ask in those exams. I don't know if Tim's done a hands-on one, but I suspect it might look a little bit like the Kubernetes certified.
Yeah, I think it's
SA.
definitely task-based, but I don't know if you can just do it via the console or you are requested to know the commands via the CLI.
Yeah, Tim's saying he thinks it's the web console, but he also hasn't seen that for the exam. How do you feel about that, Sandra? How do you feel about doing an exam that is more task-based than sort of memory-based almost?
It's good. I like it, and I think it's a good mix. Especially at the moment, only the SysOps Associate is the only exam where you can have this mix of practical and theory based. Sometimes the AWS exams are a little bit criticized because you get these very long questions, and sometimes the most difficult thing in the question is understanding what they want from you as the answer, and sometimes some of these questions, I don't know, the difference in the answer could be just a single word, and you have the feeling this is done just to trick me, really. And whereas I think introducing a more practical element, especially for the SysOps or the DevOps, maybe in the future, I think is a good thing. It's a good mix of theory and practice.
Yeah. I think I'm in favour of it, but maybe slightly more nervous about it because I don't do a lot of the hands-on stuff myself these days. I can kind of go and learn the things and take the exam, but I don't do quite as much pushing of buttons in the console. But I guess we'll see how that goes. It'll probably suit different exam styles. Probably suit different people, but interesting to see them head in that general direction. So great. I think that's all we have time for, Sandro. Thanks for your contribution this evening, joining us on the chat. Sorry that Matt couldn't join and back you up on some of this stuff, but these things happen. But thanks very much, Sandro. I'll see you at work tomorrow, I guess. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So that was Sandro, who has done great work on his exam stuff, and actually a lot of the Scale Factory team have invested in their certification paths. Partly because I asked them to, but partly also because I think they see the benefit of it in terms of kind of ongoing development. If you are working in a business where your colleagues are perhaps not as interested in certification, and you would like to join a cohort of people who are studying towards a particular exam, then there are options available to you. Our Discord for this meetup group, we have a certification channel, so do join the Discord and drop in there if you like someone to hold you to account and check on your progress and that sort of thing. Maybe you could find a buddy on there to do that for you. You could even ask me to do that, or I can't guarantee I'd do a great job of it because I'm not studying for anything at the moment. But you might want to do that if you don't have a support network elsewhere. Sandro has shared some of the links to his. That were in his presentation in the Twitch chat. This slide deck will also be available on the Scale Factory speaker deck page. So if Sandra is still paying attention here, maybe you can share that in the channel. Otherwise, I will do that on our Discord later on, because you might find that useful. And of course, the sessions tonight, we record all of our meetup groups and put them up on YouTube when we're done. So as long as this recording has worked out fine, then that will be available to watch later on this evening, probably once I've cut it up and put it together. So that's Discord. We are now, of course, going to announce the winners for the raffle this evening. And our raffle this evening is sponsored by eSynergy Solutions, our sponsors. Our winner this evening of the Echo, the bigger of the three prizes, is Oliemi Ajiboso. Well done. Second and third prize go to Phil Harl and Ian Price. Those are Echo Dots. If you have given us your address, as you should have done in the form, or we'll reach out to you to make sure we've got the details to post that to you. That will be on its way to you, as long as you have a UK address to deliver it to. Otherwise, we will not be able to get that to you. Paul is going to be in touch with you tomorrow, according to the chat, which is, I always forget how this works because I have no hand in this particular part of the meetup. Thank you, Paul. Do fill out the survey for this evening to let us know how we did. I think I've got a QR code for that coming up, and also Paul has shared the link in the chat there as well. Thanks, Paul. Thanks again to our sponsors this evening. That's Deloitte, to eSynergy Solutions, and Sainsbury's Tech. Thanks to our speakers and panelists, in particular Matt, who joined very last minute after I emailed him this morning, looking for someone to join. I think we're even now. Neither of us owe each other a talk, but I'm sure we'll probably see more of Matt in future. Thanks also to my co-conspirators behind the scenes, Paul, Nat, Jonas, Yoyu, and Ijaz, who are variously involved in making sure that this happens at all, including getting the details out on social media and putting together the slides that I'm talking from today, and choosing our speakers. If you're at all interested in speaking at this meetup group, by the way, we would love to have your voice here. We're very welcoming to new speakers. We can talk you through what's required. Whilst we are doing this online, the speakers are obviously presenting us with video recordings, so there's time ahead of the meetup group to put your content together and maybe have another go at it if you didn't feel comfortable with it. I've got a full set of instructions for speakers on how to do that in video form, and we can coach you through that. So we'd love to hear from you if you've got an AWS related story to tell, particularly interested in stories that are about particular business outcomes. So not just a technical how-to, but here is what we did and here's why it was useful from a business perspective. But we will consider the occasional how-to as well if it's particularly relevant or interesting. Hopefully the presentation about certification this evening was useful to you. We would also in particular love to hear from you if you are not a white man. We have put a deal of effort into bringing less white male voices into our meetup group over the last couple of years. We kind of failed this evening, so it was all white dudes, so sorry about that. But if you are not of the white and male demographic, then we'd love to hear more from you on our virtual stage, and we will support you in getting to that point. If you've got a story that you want to tell but you're not quite sure how, we can help you with that. We will next be meeting up on the 16th of March. That's going to be 2 weeks after I've moved to Leeds. So I'm going to cart all of this video equipment and technology up the M1 to another city where hopefully the internet connection that comes with the apartment I'm about to rent is up to the task. We will see and watch this space. But do join us on the 16th. And in the meantime, do join the Discord and continue the conversation there. We'd love to see you. Do, as I say, fill out the attendee survey. We'd like to hear from you how this meetup went for you. Was this good content? Was there something that you'd like to see more of, less of? You bored of me waffling? That's probably true by now. We've been doing this for 2 years, but do give us your feedback. It's really important to us for how we put this event together. In the meantime, and between now and the 16th of March, be well, be lucky, and we will see you safe and sound on this feed, on this the Twitch chat again in a couple of months' time. Thanks very much.